So, MK9 is probably one of the most misunderstood games by the modern NRS community.
Hi, I'm SoCalHoneyBadger. And that was my intro. What up, y'all? It is ice cold out here, freezing and snowing. So I'm in full Emperor Palpatine mode, and today is actually one of the most exciting videos I have done in a while. I've kind of kept this under wraps most of the weekend and most of the week, but this is actually a collaboration I'm doing with one of the content creators that I greatly admire and respect. One, Mr. Tom Brady. Yes. So a lot of you guys really reacted heavily to the video series that I posted last week, where I kind of went over a discussion between Mike Hollow and Tom Brady and Blood Count. And I actually have more clips of that to upload. But during the weekend, a war started on Twitter, and I kind of butted into that war and gave my 2 cents. And Tom Brady actually hit me up, and we had a bit of a discussion on Twitter in DMs. And he actually sent me a couple of voice clips, and I was like, you know, I agree with everything you're saying, and it sucks that Twitter can't really, like, you know, you only get 140 characters, and, you know, who wants to sit there and click voices and all that? So I was like, hey, you know, if you want, why don't you just send me a bunch of voice clips? I'll go through them, and I'll make a video with that. We'll put that out there as like a cool little collaboration. And he was like, yeah. So he sent me a whole bunch of voice clips, and I went through and got them recorded. And so here's the start of the conversation, or the start of the Twitter war, was a lot of people kind of discussing and debating the merits of MK9. Now, a little bit of background on MK9 from my perspective first, because I know a lot of people outside of Southern California, they don't know too much about me and MK9. So here's the deal. I was actually going to train for MK9 at EVO 2012. I was training with a couple of very notable players from the SoCal scene, mostly Wonder Chef, and primarily a guy named X-Blades, who ended up getting 4th place, one of the best Liu Kang players. To this day, people still talk about X-Blades as one of the best Liu Kang players in MK9's entire history. And he actually doesn't play any more games competitively. He does buy the new Mortal Kombats as they come out. But the thing is, this is why I'm such a huge fan of fighting games, is he got 4th place at EVO, and he was kind of always a quiet, like, nerdy, you know, shy guy. And he got 4th place at EVO, and he was like, wow, man, I worked my ass off, and I almost became the world champion. And that motivated him to get into shape. And then he got buff. And now he's like deep in bodybuilding. Like, he does like bodybuilding competitions and stuff. And so I still keep in touch with him because we're homies, you know, but I don't talk to him that much because he's like in a whole other world, bodybuilding. And last I heard, he was prepping for some sort of competition or something. I don't really talk to him too much about the bodybuilding, other than like we shared workout techniques for a while. But yeah, so X-Blades has moved on from MK, but he still loves MK, and he loves whenever people bring up that he was the best Liu Kang in all of MK9. But that's kind of like my history, is I came up in the SoCal scene for MK9 when it first dropped. Okay, I was there in the tournament scene at Wednesday night fights, at the first Wednesday night fights to feature MK9 at launch. That was at the Proud Bird Hotel, and that was where I met a lot of like fucking important people in NetherRealm. I met Crazy Bone. That was where I met Eris. That was where I met Online Tony, and those guys. So Eris, Online Tony, I just forgot. I forgot the freaking name. Crazy Bone, and a couple of other guys from like outside the scene that were like playing MK as well. So you're talking about Combo Fiend, Marn, and Justin Wong. Not so much Justin Wong. He was like there, but I didn't really interact too much with Justin Wong. But the big one was Flo. So rest in peace, Flo. I really miss him. He taught me a lot about MK9. I trained a lot with Flo and Combo Fiend and Online Tony and Eris. Those were the ones, and Crazy Bone. Those are the ones that I trained with at the start of MK9, and then the game got really buggy and busted, and I kind of lost faith in it. And so I was training a little bit towards the end of MK9's lifespan with X-Blades, and then I found out about the Player 1 glitch, and that was when I was like, yeah, no, this is unacceptable. Like, I'll train with you and play with you, do sets and all that, but, like, I'm not trying to compete. So at EVO 2012, I went, but I did not compete in MK as a form of protest. I was like, dude, like, no, I'm going to be here hanging out. And I hung out with the MK crowd the whole time at EVO 2012. All I did was play Tekken Tag and then Tekken Tag 2 and then hang out with the EVO MK guys getting drunk with like X-Blades. And then we hung out with like the Marvel guys. And I just kind of like spent most of that EVO getting hammered and not focusing on games because the game I wanted to compete in was MK9. And that was the game I had spent the most time in. But I was like, dude, Player 1 glitch is, or Player 1 advantage, it is not a glitch. That is intentional. I found to just be wholly unacceptable. Like, yo, we should not be playing around this. We should demand something better. And with their next game, Injustice, they got rid of Player 1 advantage. It's not come back until MK1, but that was a glitch. That wasn't an intentional thing. But Player 1 advantage was a big freaking deal for me, and that was why I didn't go in. I didn't really blow up in MK9. I really was like, yo, no, we should. There's other fighting games we could be playing, guys. Other fighting games we could be playing. But yes, I know MK9. I know MK9 deep. I have a very, very high level understanding of MK9 in that I trained with the guy that got 4th place at the World Championships. So people were kind of what should I say? They were kind of downplaying MK9 on Twitter because this is argument right now between new games and the old games. MK1, MKX, 9, Armageddon, Ultimate Trilogy, whatever, old games. As someone who is straddling the lines and that I played all the old games when they came out, and I'm still continuing to play and host, a league for MK11 and MK1. And I'm thinking of adding MKX to my rotation of games that I stream. So, quick plug. I stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I run what is known as the Beef Set League on Saturday for MK11 and Sunday for MK1. So I'm playing the old game and I'm playing the new game. All right. This is like completely an unbiased opinion for me to come out because I'm a part of both of them, man. I do well if MK11 does well. I do well if MK1 does well. And that's kind of the issue right now is because MK1 is in a bad spot. There's no denying, there's no disputing, there's no debating that, okay? The game's sold, but the community is kind of fractured and in shambles. People just argue and fight. Nobody gets along. Nobody even really plays the games anymore. That's the problem with me running my league is like, yeah, a lot of people are interested in like watching a stream of high level play, but it's like tough to get people to want to play. A lot of players won't play unless they're paid to. I've already discussed like that before. And so we're not going to get into that. That is not the crux of this topic. All right. But I digress. I should probably put a Taz meme in there. So the problem is people are kind of arguing between old games and new games, and my take has always been, why can't we just play them all? Like, you got 24 hours in a day, you work an 8-hour shift, maybe spend a couple of hours with your significant other and get laid, and then you got an hour or two every day to play video games, 7 days a week, play a different one every day, and you never get bored. That's what I do. I only play MK1 on the stream days. I only play 11 on the stream days. And when I play them, I'm hyped and excited to play them. The rest of the week, I play other shit. So that's my thing. And a lot of people are like, but I'm trying to go pro. And I'm trying, listen, you shouldn't be. If you're trying to make money off of fighting games, why? There's no money to be made. So coming from somebody who's made it. I do make money off of this. There's not a lot of money to be made, okay? You get into fighting games because you enjoy them, you have fun. Otherwise, you're just going to fail, you're going to embarrass yourself, and you're going to get mad, and then you'll never be back, and now the scene is like, oh, how come we don't have any more people that play fighting games? It's because people didn't get into them for the right reasons. So I've always been an advocate for old games. I've always been an advocate for new games. I've always been an advocate for just playing whatever games the homies are playing, play that. If you got a favorite game, bring that. Hey, guys, I want you guys to play this game. It's a fighting game. It's called Aquapazza. Yeah. What do you got? Dengeki Bunko Fight? Yeah, let's do it. You learn mine, I learn yours. Right? That's how the fighting game scene always was. We've lost sight of that. Everybody's like, well, I only play Unial and Guilty Gear Strive sucks, and everybody that's into Mortal Kombat is a fucking idiot. And it's like, what? That was never it. Like growing up, it was like, oh, sweet, Street Fighter looks dope. Let me play Street Fighter. Oh, what's next to it? World Heroes. We're playing all of it. Okay? So, my opinion and my stance is you should be playing the old games. You should be getting good at the old games. There's a lot to learn from every fighting game. Every fighting game has depth. I've said publicly many, many times, I do not like Guilty Gear Strive. Don't like it. It's just not for me. But I'm not denying that it's not a decent, competent fighter with a lot of depth and skill. The same people win the tournaments. So, right? But you could like or not like a game and, recognize that it's good. Like, I don't play checkers. I don't want to play checkers. But I recognize that it's a decent game and there are people really freaking good at it. So I feel like, yes, there are fighting games you like and don't like, but you should play them all. And a lot of the discussion on Twitter, and specifically what has drawn out this conversation, is a debate about the downplaying of how actually deep MK9 was. And that's the issue that Tom Brady has taken, is that a lot of people are talking about how, oh, well, the new games are just string into Cameo, and so the old games were better. And then a lot of the old guys are like, or a lot of the newer gen are like, the old games are just degenerate gameplay. And then they bring in and invoke MK9. And that woke up Tom Brady. And the issue is, like, first of all, as someone that really, really respects Tom Brady and is totally nerding out that I get to do a collaboration with him, but there's one of the few things that I feel like are absolutes. Okay, when it comes to MK9, the absolute in my mind is that Tom knows what he's talking about. Okay, and so you don't necessarily have to agree with his opinion, but you have to at least recognize that it comes from a position of experience, wisdom, and a lot of research. Okay? Like, he didn't just make up all he knows about MK9. He's gone to a lot of tournaments. He wrote a guide that I've already spoken about in other videos. He hung out with Rio, who pretty much all of us agree was the greatest player of MK9 ever. Holy crap, that guy was good. And Tom trained with him. So at the very least, when someone with that legendary of a legacy with a game and a level of expertise has something to say, it is of utmost importance that him who hath wisdom understands and listens, okay? Because there's a lot to glean from old games, and it takes someone who knows them at a higher level to break them down. So let me go ahead and let Tom speak real quick, and we'll discuss afterwards.
So MK9 is probably one of the most misunderstood games by the modern NRS community. I mean, it's got its issues: input bug, player one advantage. Just the way the game was coded just made it impossible to correct some of the overpowered moves, or some of the overpowered stuff in the game, or really fix some of those bugs and glitches. The game was just coded a certain way where one thing was tied to another. Limitations of the way they put the game together. However, when people say that, I read on Twitter, people say, MK9 is kind of this game that maybe has not even a handful, a couple of characters, one, maybe two, that have some execution, but it's a fairly simple game plan tied behind an execution wall that is slightly harder to execute than a modern NRS character. But the game plan, when you remove the execution, is still fairly simple. And then, of course, characters that don't have that execution They're just straightforward, very simple. You pick 1, 2, 3 characters and just whore out some easy wins. This is kind of how that game is seen by the modern community, which is the furthest thing from the truth. See, when people always bring up the freedom they played in MK9, or they experienced in MK9 back when they played it, and they were just recalling from memory, the reason why they feel this way is because, while MK9 certainly had characters that had powerful tools, it took being able to really use those tools collectively to really have that character be effective. I mean, obviously you had like Johnny Cage ramming his knee down your throat, so on and so forth. But when it came to like most of the characters, you really had to use those moves collectively in order to get the results you want. And this is why the game kind of felt like it had more freedom. Like the modern NRS games is pretty much, here's your 1 or 2 power moves, just whore this garbage down people's throat. But really in MK9, it was about putting everything together in order to make the character be successful, not just do this one thing. Cabal is a great example of a character that, has great power, but it takes being able to use all of his tools together to get that power to really be effective. Cabal is the best character in probably the game that is considered to have the highest power level in the entire NRS era. So obviously he's very powerful. But it's not because of any one thing per se. It's not because, the zoning or, the pressure. It's a combination of all of his tools together and how you have to use all those tools together. So, for example, there were people say, today's players played that game, there'd be, 8 Cabals in top 8. Wrong. Because, again, there were players who could, and today it would be the same thing. They'd be great zoning with them, but not as good with the pressure. Great with pressure, not as good with the zoning. And knowing when to transition between both. Even when you're zoning, when are you going to just use instant air gas blast? When are you going to throw a buzzsaw instead? When are you going to rip a full screen nomad dash cancel because people are just all over the screen trying to just mad scramble to get in on you? When are you going to not rip it but threaten to rip it and then cancel right in front of their face and go into pressure? When you're pressuring with Cabal, when do you just obnoxiously pressure? When do you stop your pressure short with hook sword or low buzzsaw? When do you stop your pressure short with a quick poke to stop them from poking out, then continue pressure? When do you stop your pressure and then go back to zoning? Because Rio would do that sometimes. He'd be pressuring you, and all of a sudden, IAGBs, bam, 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 all the way back across the screen. Knowing how to do all of that collectively and put it all together and being able to control it and make those decisions, it's all of those tools. So if you're just zoning or you're just pressuring, you're going to be just a mid-tier player in tournament because it took all of that. And using all those tools equally, collectively, to make Cabal what he was. In modern MK, it's more like, here's 1 or 2 things, whore this shit out, and it's so obnoxious and powerful, we can just do that and win.
All right, so first of all, we've got to break down what the argument is and what Tom is trying to say here. And This initially started as a response to my initial reply to one of his tweets defending MK9, and this is where I butted my nose into it, and I said something along the lines of, yeah, Cabal's like one of those characters that has kind of like a simple game plan that's like really hard to execute. But I was talking from a different perspective from where he took it, and so I'm going to talk in Tekken terms real quick. Now, what you guys don't know is Tom Brady actually plays Tekken. He's a pretty good Tekken player. And in Tekken, there are actually 2 kinds of Tekken that take place in a match that'll determine whether or not you can win. And those 2 types of Tekken are Big Tekken and Little Tekken. So in Big Tekken, that's like your open space, your Korean backdashing. I'm going to look for a launch punish and wall carry you, wall splat and kill you, blah, 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 right? It's all about movement, positioning, and getting big punishes, big whiff punish, big juggle launch, big Tekken. The opposite side of that is Little Tekken. I'm up in close and I'm doing strings and I'm doing mix-ups and I'm just in your face mashing buttons, right? Just doing little lows, low, low, mid, 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 string, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1, right? Little Tekken, close range, small damage, right? Small reward, small range, small movement, right? Maybe a back dash, maybe a sidestep, right? Small Tekken. And so at the crux of this is I was talking big Mortal Kombat, whereas Tom is trying to highlight the minutia of little Mortal Kombat. And he's trying to do this with fucking idiots. That's the problem. Okay, so anybody that knows anything about fighting games at a higher level understands the difference between big Tekken, little Tekken. Mortal Kombat is, I've always said, that it is very, very heavily influenced by Tekken. If you're an MK player who doesn't play Tekken, or if you're a Tekken player who doesn't play MK, you're kind of missing a lot, because a lot of your Tekken skills will transfer over and you can just mop people in MK and it feels great. And if you're an MK player, there's a lot you can learn from testing out Tekken. And so there is a big MK and a little MK, right? Big, but it's little furthered out, right? The little MK is actually the zoning and the big MK is the rush down. But me and Tom, we can talk and have the understanding of that when we talk about a match, we can separate that sort of situational thing. So when I was talking, I was like, yeah, big MK, Cabal is not that hard to do. Big MK, like the strategy behind Cabal, big MK is zone until they get close and then do run cancel bullshit if they do get close, right? Instant air gas and then run cancel bullshit if they get close. That's big MK. Very, very simple to understand. But little MK, the minutia is that's actually kind of hard to do. And I wasn't necessarily talking about execution. Yes, instant air fireballs are not easy to do, right? Run cancel bullshit, not easy to do. But I'm not talking about the execution. I was talking about the mind games around that, right? Because there's a lot of variance in how you do instant air fireballs. And to low-level players, it just seems like spammy, degenerate gameplay. But bro, I came up in old Sagat, so fuck you, dog. Like, if I can see the nuance in old Sagat, then I can see a world and galaxy of depth in like instant air gas blast Cabal, right? Like, you either fighting games or you don't. All right, so instant air gas blast, yeah, there's a lot of minutia in just that zoning, because you could change up the timing and just even how fast you bang those out, because he does have an instant or a built-in backdash into the instant air fireball. So like he could kind of like cover a lot of like backward space with that, and that's a part of understanding how that works. Same thing with the run cancel bullshit. Like, yeah, you could run cancel infinite, but like, do you have like a week to wait for the chip? No, eventually you've got to get the hit. Especially if you're trying to do the run cancel infinite when they've got a life lead, or you're fighting Cyrax, right? Who wants you to try that shit. Please come at me with the run cancel infinite bullshit. You know what I'm saying? If you ever watch a Cabal and a Cyrax fight, and it's like, yeah, dude, the Cabal just zones. Because like Cabal has close range shit, but he don't want to fuck with Cyrax like that. Somebody that doesn't understand MK9 at that level is going to have some stupid ass opinions and kind of take what me and Tom are saying and really reduce them, make it a very reductive thing. But when I was saying my generalization, I'm doing it from a position of high level fighting game discussion at the highest of level. And so at the highest of level, I'm assuming that they can not only do all of the things, but they also know how they work, right? At high level, something that is considered high execution doesn't exist. Okay, the rule in fighting games is if it takes 1,000 years to learn it, there is some basement dwelling nerd who will do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is somebody who will master the link. They will master the frame. Whatever. If you think it's impossible for a human to do, if it's in the game and a human can do it, then a human will do it, and they will do it in a match. They will do it at Evo. Fuck you, they win. That's just how fighting games work at high level. So you have to assume, okay, I'm fighting a Cabal. They can do all the shit. And so when I'm discussing Cabal, I'm like, yeah, okay, so a Cabal that can do all the shit is going to be trying to zone me. And then when I get in close, he's going to go for the run cancel bullshit. So those are the two parts of this matchup that I need to break down the minutia. Right? That's where the actual depth is what do I do about the zoning, and then what do I do about the rush down nonsense? and then putting together the strategy there either as the Cabal or fighting the Cabal. A lot of players these days, they're not high enough level to have these conversations, especially not on Twitter. This is why I just talk shit and I troll. I don't give a fuck if people don't like me and think I'm dumb. I'm like, people try to argue with me and I'm like, you're an idiot, dog. Like you're like actually fucking stupid. Okay, and it's sad that you have like 60,000 followers and I got like 8, but my 8 are smarter than yours, so I'm good. I'm not having a problem. And so I have to reiterate that I'm with Tom Brady on this 100,000%. He sent me this first clip, and that was when I said I have to make this video because dude is preaching. He's putting it down. Okay, there is a lot of depth in MK9. Now, I've always been critical of MK9 because it does degenerate a lot at high level that is off-putting for a lot of people. And I felt like if they cleaned up some of the balance, maybe it wouldn't look so spammy to like the normal guy. But my big issue has been and always will be player one advantage. It's invalidated. Just delete the game from there. Like, no, I don't even want to. No, we're not even going to have a discussion after that. Player one has an advantage in a 2-player game. Like, regardless of character, like Johnny Cage is what, a 7-3 mirror? What? That was my issue with MK9, but I've always believed that MK9 has a lot going on. Like MK9, if it were better balanced and they kind of cleaned up some of the higher level shenanigans, which have their own balance, okay? MK9 is about as balanced as Third Strike, in my opinion, okay? So people that want to talk about Third Strike, there's like 6 characters in Third Strike. That's it. Okay, and they're pretty degenerate at high level. Like Chun-Li is full screen spamming low shorts to build meter. Like watch the Daigo parry video. That's it. Build the meter, wait for a whiff punish, low short, super cancel. Game over. Except Daigo parried the first hit and crumpled it. That's exactly, and that's why that moment was so hype, was because that's Third Strike, and MK9 is kind of like that, but with its own 6 characters. So if you're going to say Third Strike is balanced and deep, which we all agree it is, okay, then you got to say that at its highest level, MK9 is as balanced and deep. It's got, 6 characters, but the interactions among those 6 characters has a lot of nuance, and we've seen consistent results. Like the same people won the tournaments. The MK9 was played for half a decade. I think that game's competitive lifespan was like 5 or 6 years. Like we explored the hell, and it was like it continued having evos after it was finally patched. So that game was very, very well explored, and the people that mastered it put a lot of time into it. Like, don't even discount how many man hours it took to find all those Cabal nonsense infinites, right? I told you, I trained with Online Tony, the guy who discovered the first run cancel infinite, and it was patched like 5 times because Online Tony kept doing them on stream at Wednesday night fights, making the game look like a joke. And every time they would do whatever, patch it, ban him. They tried to ban, like all kinds, and Online Tony would just wreck people. Like when they tried to ban Cabal one time, he just pulled out Striker and wrecked everybody. And I know because I got eliminated. Fucking Striker, he had this run cancel gimmick. It was fucking bull. It's Online Tony, man. Like, he's good, and so people that haven't played a lot of fighting games at high level, they can't have these discussions, so they have stupid hot takes because they have a very surface level understanding of the genre. I always say it's the hardest genre to play, the hardest genre to get involved in, whatever, man. I like it. I like the difficulty spike. I like that fighting games are so dense. It gives me a lot to sink my teeth into. The fact that it's so hard to earn respect in the community makes it worth earning that respect. The fact that it's so hard to do anything in a match because you got some idiot mashing freaking stupid shit in your face and you're just like, dog, can I do a combo, right? I like that. I got to figure out how to land this combo because otherwise he's going to shit down my throat. And a lot of people have gotten into the genre for the wrong reasons. And that's one of the issues that I just absolutely am trying to really expose, is that a lot of people got into this shit for the wrong reasons. If you're not in fighting games because you like to play fighting games, you don't need to be here. I don't care what other ulterior motives you have. If you're here to make money, get the fuck out of here. If you're here to push a political ideology, get the fuck out of here. If you're here to find community and friendship and fit in and get along, get the fuck out of here. We are here because we all unanimously love to play these games, and we tolerate each other for better or worse because we have that one common bond. And so if you're not willing to be around people you don't like for the thing that you love, then you got to get out of here. If you're just trying to extract something from that thing that other people love, get out of here, man. Fighting games don't need nobody. They've been around longer than other genres. You know, it's like what's older than Street Fighter 2? Tetris? You know, like the Nintendo didn't have a whole lot of esports carrying over into Super Nintendo, but Street Fighter 2 is still here. All right? And so, like, if you're into fighting games, you need to get into fighting games because you love them. And if you love fighting games, I guarantee you all those other things that I said don't seek, those are the side effect of if you love fighting games, right? If you love fighting games, you just play fighting games, you get involved, and you have a good time, and you spread that good time. Bro, I make money. I don't make a lot of money, but I didn't get in here to make money. And I got in here because I just love playing fighting games. I would be playing these even if I didn't have a stream and there was nobody here. I'll be playing them in single player by myself when I don't have a community, right? I just love fighting games. So eventually that translated somehow, and now people pay me, right? Or if you want friendship and camaraderie because I love fighting games, when I go and meet other people that play fight, I'm like, oh, snap. Bro, you play like Guilty Gear? I hate Strive, but let me tell you something about accent code. Oh, you do the accent? Oh, well, I played the Strive. Nah, bro. I was, what's the Geo main? Yeah, the dog girl. Yeah, I did that. Nah, you know what? Let's go have a drink, bro. You're good people. You're a striver. You're, a degenerate weirdo, but we're fighting game people. I didn't go and make a friend because I wanted a friend. I made a friend because I love fighting games, and I found someone that also did, and we made that connection. And so, yeah, these people saying these things about MK9, they have no freaking clue what they're talking about. Nada. None. They're freaking dumb. They haven't played these games, and I think that we need to stop engaging with these stupid, just these stupid people. Like, I'm very careful about who I talk to on Twitter because I don't want dumb people to like me. If you don't like me, I think you're dumb. That's intentional. If you don't like me, I went out of my way to make you not like me because I think you are dumb. I don't want dumb people to like me. I got too many friends. I neglect the ones that I've got that deserve all my time and attention because I love them to death. Okay? So I don't need more friends. So I'm very careful about who I interact with on Twitter, and I think that we should do that going forward and just because the issue is Tom Brady is trying to argue with people that don't even know what he's saying. And unfortunately, it means that me and him and other high-level players, we try to have a dialogue and our words get mixed up and all of that shit because people don't understand that. But MK9 is not. I mean, yeah, it's a scrub lord game because the player one advantage. But to sit there and be reductive and say that there's no depth, that it's just a freaking And again, I have to admit that I'm guilty of saying a lot of those things, but I always preface it from, I played that game at a high level. So unless you're playing that game at a high level, and again, I didn't even play it at the highest level. I played it with people who did, but I was not at their level. Okay, X-Blades got 4th place. I played SoCalHoneyBadger, bro. You know what I'm saying? But I understand the game at a high level, and so when I talk to people that I know understand it, like when I'm interacting with someone like Tom Brady or Scar or whatever on Twitter, I'm like, yeah, man, this guy, I don't need to explain shit. He knows what I'm talking about, and he don't need to explain nothing. I know what he's talking about, but then you see how discussions can get muddy by people that have no freaking clue.
So Freddy is another great example, very similar to Cabal in that he's one of the most powerful characters in the game. Obviously not as strong as Cabal, but his name is invoked anytime a modern NRS player, and we all know NRS players hate zoning. Let's not deny the modern NRS player has no clue what to do when you are zoning him, except for complain and say that it's boring and they don't want to deal with that, etc. So zoning, Freddy, they use this as an example of a character that could just run away and zone easily, and broken, scrubby NRS zoning. And this was actually far from true. Even at the peak of MK9, people that competed in the game could only think about maybe one or two players that were formidable with Freddy at the highest level. So, and it's not because like, oh, people were stupid. It's because the zoning was not as simple as you think. See, it wasn't as simple as run away, throw a projectile. For Freddy to be a formidable at high level, for him to be a high level zoner, took a combination of straight claw, ground Freddy Fingers claw, and Hellspike, and Hellspike actually had to be directed for, I think there was four of them, I believe, if I can stand corrected, versions of it. And they didn't just track on you unless you used bar, which of course you don't have unlimited bar. Meter didn't self-generate like MK11. So you had to be very good with using all those tools in order to make him an effective zoner. If you did not use all of those tools in conjunction with each other, you would be a terrible zoner and it would not be hard to approach you and crush you. Also, then there's other parts of his game. When do you just retreat normally? When do you use the teleports to retreat or advance? When do you use EX version of that instead? You can also use Nightmare stance and transition of retreating to also threaten with an attack. Then he did have a 50-50 that he could kind of use safely with bar with EX spike. He had a low and overhead. When do you, instead of running away, come in and threaten with that and check them with that? You had to use all of that, all those tools collectively, which give you a lot of freedom on how to play the character, and was more about your decision making and using all those tools as opposed to just taking one thing and whoring it out.
So Tom brings up a lot of points with Freddy, and Freddy has always been an interesting zoner in MK9, and and again, he brings up the point that a lot of people are like, oh, it's just zoning, it's just zoning, it's just zoning, it's just runaway, and it's like, these people clearly didn't ever have the controller in their hands, because if you look at like his command list, it's like he's got like 5 different projectiles and all of them have placements, right? It's the ground spike, he had to pick far, medium, and close. He had the dream drop, but it was very slow, so you had to like plan out how you were gonna put it, and then you could only like where you put it, you had to plan where it was gonna go, you know, you had to pick it was a lot with Freddy to be able to keep someone off you. And then if they did get in, you had stuff to fight them off. But the thing about Freddy is like he just controlled interesting spots on the screen that are very different from other fighting games. It was just a very unique approach with the way Freddy did it. I'm not going to say like it was innovative. It's unique. You don't see it often, but it was very similar to something like Ginnit's from King of Fighters. But Freddy clearly had a horizontal projectile. Ginnit's did not. But it's one of those things where I'm going to put down pillars, but I'm going to pick different pillars, and the different pillars do different things. They launch, they stun, and having to know, like, Freddy's entire zoning game wasn't really spamming. The spamming was Cabal. It was like, can you instant gas blast? And then freaking do it. And then the depth is like, how often, how fast, is there a gap, do you leave a hole to bait a jump, right? There's like, but it's just spam the gas blast, whereas with Freddy, it was like, yeah, if they stand here, you want to do this to get them to jump there where you're going to put the dream drop. So you use this to like make them jump forward. But what if they jump backwards? Well, that's why you're going to spam this to make them not want to jump backwards. So that way when they see this, they're going to be like, oh, I can't jump backwards after this because he did that. And they're going to jump forward. And that's how you get them with the dream drop. It's like, yeah, that is zoning. But very, very different. And it's like, people that don't play the games at the highest level, and I understand it takes a long time to understand what's going on at MK9's highest level. Like, you can't just sit there and pull up an old Evo video of, you know, like Pig of the Hut spamming Kenshi overheads full screen. It's like, you got to understand how the meta evolved to get to that point. You know, you see it a lot with a lot of newer players where they're like, yo, man, Smoke is like literally the brokenest character in MK9. Y'all just never explored him. Y'all didn't even try. Look at this tech that I found. It just blows the game wide open. And it's like, actually, no, that tech is old and it got countered by this. Like, so you see Cyrax can actually do this and it just deletes that whole, yeah, no, that's really good. You blow up Sonya's and Johnny Cage's with that, but nah, you'll have a problem with this character and this character. Like, y'all act like we didn't spend like years and millions of man hours like figuring out this tech, and that's how the meta evolved, like the minutia of all of that thing. That's why there's only 4 viable characters in MK9. Although I would say it's kind of controversial to say it, but I think MK9 has about 6 characters that are viable. Cabal, Kenshi, Freddy, that's like the top 3, and then you got Sonya, Johnny Cage, and then I would just say any like dark horse character. There's a lot of characters that would be in that 6th place dark horse. Like a lot of people would argue for, Liu Kang in there. I know there's a lot of debate about what's that other character that people think is really good. Yeah, like I said, the 6th place is kind of up there. Smoke is another one that people think is up there. But for the most part, it's like it's a Kenshi, Freddy, Cabal game, and then occasionally you'll see a Smoke or not Smoke, Sonya or a Johnny Cage sneak through and put in some work. But even within those matchups, the reason why people play the game for so freaking long is because there actually is depth in those matchups. And again, I point people to Third Strike, because if you actually play Third Strike at a high level, that game is like kind of simple. It's like build meter and then look for an opportunity to hit confirm a 2-1 into super. And then supers just do like super like damage. And then you just do that and then you'll probably win. Like it's like a simple game plan, but again, how do I get that meter? How do I hit confirm a 2-1, right? Because that's the majority of Third Strike is like crouching low into Ken super or Chun-Li super. Like Yun is like dive kick, hit confirm into super. It's like all about whiffing a bunch of dumb stuff, getting meter, and then landing a super and you win. And using those 3 characters to do it. But like that's actually not as easy as you would think. And doing that stuff and pulling that, people keep downplaying a lot of the difficulty of like old fighting games, kind of like armchair quarterbacks with football and basketball and whatnot. But the thing that I find that makes gaming superior to those modes, those mediums, is that like, you could pull up that old game and some of those legends are still around. Like you could pull up MK9 and do some matches with Tom Brady and find out exactly why what you think is not freaking true. We explored it. Sorry, these characters are viable, right? I know Third Strike Legends. I know Marvel vs. Capcom Legends. I very quickly got rid of that mindset of like, man, Spider-Man could be he could be good in MVC2. You just got to get the right assist, man. Like get Psylocke and then like, what I'm saying, maybe Trombone. No, dude, Spider-Man can't hang with Magneto. It's not happening, bro. Yeah, you could try. Go ahead. And that's the beauty of fighting games, is that like you could go ahead and try. There are some MK9 killers out there that still play that shit still right now. Go find one. Go find a high level Freddy. Tell him that he spams and that Freddy's brain dead to his face, and then pick Freddy against him. Tell him he can't pick. Find the best Freddy in the world. Say, all right, you can't pick Freddy. Freddy's bullshit. Let me show you he's bullshit. You can't pick Freddy. I'm going to pick Freddy. And then watch that Freddy master just dismantle you and shit down your throat. Like it's... These people, this is what I'm saying, man. This is what I'm saying. Tom, we got to stop giving these morons the time of day and just call them stupid.
So I guess the reason why when people say, the games were more freestyle back then, or what do they say? There's less player expression, less, player and character individuality. I think what they're saying is the power is condensed to like option A, option B situations, as opposed to having a plethora of tools that all had to be used in conjunction to get the result. And how you use those tools could differ based on play and expression, which is how things looked less linear, and it appeared to have more freedom in player and character expression. And I think that's what people mean when they say that. And I'm not saying every character in MK9 had to use this Swiss Army knife of moves, but most of them did. I'll take a character like Sub-Zero, the character I played. For Sub-Zero to be effective at high level, he had to use almost every single move he had, normals and specials, from Ice Ball to Ice Clone to a random, which I don't have time to go into, use for his EX Ice Ball, a kind of weird situational use for EX Ground Puddle, his normals, down 4, down 3, stand 2 for anti-airs, 2-2, 2-2-4, 2-1, 2-1-2, 2-1-4, back 1-2, back 1-2-1. Even his standing 4 in certain situations, he literally had to use forward 4. I literally just named just about every single normal and every single string and every special specially had. Tom, did you really have to use all of them? Yes. Every single move and every single normal and every single string in different situations in every single fight. There were several characters like this, and you can't find one of them in the modern NRS era, and this is the difference.
So Tom's talking about how a lot of the characters in the old games, and man, him going through those strings got me think. I was like, yeah, I remember forward, fuck that move, right? And that 2-2, man, Sub-Zero had so much mix off of every button led to a mix, and I think that's what a lot of old timers are kind of complaining. So in the modern games, not every button leads to a mix. It's like, okay, the mix is like, are you going to cancel off that button? But there's not a lot of follow-ups because there's not a lot of strings, so you can't really you have to try harder to break someone. And this is one of those things that I always joke, like, people that don't know how to design games, which I'm making my own game. I'm after this video, I got to get to work back on that. But a lot of people, they try to balance and design games around the lowest common denominator, right? That's like the whole thing. Easy to learn, hard to master. And it's like, so they try to make them also easy to play. So that way it's easier to learn, and that'll make it hard to master. But actually, no, all that does is when you make a game really easy to play and really easy to learn, it makes mastering it the barrier for entry. Like, if you want to play MK, a modern MK post, I would say MKX, right? In order to play an MK game at high level, post MKX, like, you basically have to memorize everything in the game. And it's less of like who outplays or outthinks their opponent and figures out maybe tricky, innovative, ways to open up their opponent, and more of like who has memorized the most of this game, right? Who knows do you know that I can flawless block you here? Okay, well then you lose, right? And so at the end of the day, it becomes, that's an example for like MK11, right? Like in MK11, it's like, oh, you don't know that I can flawless block that string? Well, now you don't get that string. And if you don't know how to fight without that string, then I just win. And all of the MK games have since MKX have kind of degenerated into that, because, the idea is like, oh, players shouldn't have to memorize everything in order to play the game. But by making it have so few things to memorize, you've basically made that the barrier to entry, you fucking idiots, right? Because now, again, rule number 1 of every video game ever is somebody will, okay? So if it's very easy to master the game, then everybody will master, and now, like, there's no room for nuance. It's just rote memorization. Who has memorized the most stuff? I like to thrive in those kind of games. That's why I love MK11, because I've been playing fighting games at such a high level for so long that it's actually kind of fun for me to play a game that's like dumbed down to where I really only have like 4 or 5 things I can use. How can I make that shit work? That's not fun for a lot of people. A lot of people like to improvise in their gameplay. They like having, a lot of people like to be Batman. I want to have a lot of tools. I want to have a lot of things I can do to mess with my opponent. And the recent MKs have taken that away. And the big complaint is that, like, why, when that's what you started with? Like, you started with MK9, where I just had a whole sandbox of nonsense, and then you decided you could not balance that nether realm. So rather than do the job that we paid you to do, which was balance the game that we bought, you scaled back and said, well, we're just going to make a different game that's not as complicated, and hopefully it will be more balanced. And I will say this, they have been more balanced, but the competitive scene has been kind of stagnant for a long time. Like, there's no like back in the day, there were people like Justin Wong or Alex Valle, you know, that like it didn't matter which Street Fighter, like they were going to be killers in it, right? Whereas nowadays in MK, like people don't even really survive patch seasons, right? It's like, yeah, that guy kind of peaked during Ghostface, but like, you know, like it's like, oh, this patch, like my character's good, so I'm good, and then next patch that character's bad, so like I quit. And that's where fighting games are now. And it's not because of the players. People try to say it's because players are bitch asses, and I'm like, no. Like, this is what the games are designed for. Like, this is intentional. They wanted this. They wanted you to master the game in like a week and a half and then get bored at high level because there's not much else to do at higher level and then move on to something else, right? I mean, a lot of games are made to be disposable, and NetherRealm has their head up the corpo liberal economic order's ass to where they think that it's a viable business model. Just pump out disposable shit that has no meaningful lasting power, and then you're basically trying to monetize the passion and love of your fan base for as much as it's worth. And we see it with Star Wars, right? Like everybody hates Star Wars now. There's a million reasons why people would hate Star Wars, but like there's not a lot of people like wanting to love Star Wars. That's the problem. Is it's not that everybody hates it, it's that they're not getting any new people, right? And these games now, modern NetherRealm games, they don't get new people, right? People always hit the plateau in fighting games, and that's when, you know, the hardest part of fighting is hitting the plateau where you're like, damn, like I am better than all these people, but like these guys kick my ass and I cannot fucking get to that level. And how you as a fighting game player become a legend is how you overcome that plateau, but people just have no reason to push beyond that plateau because there isn't enough depth beyond there, right? Whereas something like Tekken, like beginners can play Tekken forever because you got like 500 moves and 40 characters, and like there's so much shit that and bro, Tekken is sold off of casuals, man. Like it is. And when I talk to casuals, I talk to my barber and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I play fighting games. Oh, is that like Tekken? Isn't that the game with King? He's like a cat guy, right? And he wrestles. That was my dude, man. I liked King. He had that low sweep combo. Right? People memorize their favorite. This guy don't know shit about Tekken. Yeah, I used to beat everybody with that low sweep. No, the fuck you didn't. I'll low parry that shit, launch your ass. Right? But that's casuals, man. They got to have a lot of shit to fuck with to keep them on the fucking breadcrumb of learning fighting games. And modern NetherRealm games don't offer that. And that's the crux of what Tom Brady's trying to say. Is like, dog, like, bro, like, Baraka is like mix-ups with back 3 and forward 3, and then you're trying to play spacing games with standing 2-1, and if any of that shit hits, it's an easy hit confirmed for like half their health into a fucking Oki 50-50. Like, and that's it. That's Baraka in MK1. Okay, and that's him in a nutshell at high level. That's what a high-level player is trying to do to you the whole match. That's it. Sounds simple, but there's minutia in there, right? There's little MK. How does he land the mix-up? How does he catch me moving so that the standing 2-1 will movement check me at range 2, right? Like at low level, okay, what I said that was simple is high level for you if you are a beginner, okay? A beginner does not need to listen to what I say and say, oh yeah, Baraka's simple. Let me just do the mix and no, bro, you're not that good to where you can like win Evo with just that dumb shit. There are people that are good enough to win Evo with just that dumb shit. But you're not one of them. You got to get to the point where you see the depth and technicality in the simple dumb shit to be good enough to fight it. Otherwise, you're just like a monkey regurgitating some shit that somebody told you, right? And I use the monkey, or not a monkey, a gorilla, right? I use the gorilla reference, not to talk about how stupid you are, but to talk about the difference between a high level and a low level player is that we taught gorillas how to talk, right? Gorillas know sign language, right? You know, the what is it, the Lucy with the cat, right? Gorillas learn sign language, and what did we learn when we talked to gorillas? They never ask questions. Not a single gorilla has ever asked a question. They just make statements. Give, banana, hungry, tired, sleep, now. That's it. Not, hey, what time is it? Or, what else do you have to eat besides banana? Never a question. Never thought behind outside of statement. And that's how most of these twittards are, these idiots in the FGC. This is why I said I'm FGC. No, we're getting the fuck away from these people. They're fucking stupid. Because they just look and they're like, Cabal, simple. Air, gas, blast, then run, cancel. Then you win. There's no need to play MK9. Why do we even have the game? This is how it's solved. It's figured out. That's how it works. You run, cancel, and you air, gas, blast. Okay, if that's the fucking case, why is it we don't have a rotating line of everybody gets to be Evo champ? If that's the case, then eventually, if you just learn that shit, eventually you get to be Evo champ when the guy who's Evo champ gets bored and moves on. And everybody thinks fighting games are like a revolving door like that. And developers like NetherRealm and modern AAA gaming have perpetuated that moron mindset. And that's why I stand against that shit. Because nah, dog, you can't just learn the gas blast, the run cancel, and win the Evo. Because my boy who played Liu Kang beat a whole lot of motherfuckers trying that shit. Got 4th place. Lost to like a fucking noob Cybot or some shit. Okay? So, like for what, how long? Cabal had a known run cancel infinite since the launch of the game, and Perfect Legend won like the first 2 or 3 Evos with Kung Lao. Cabal had the run cancel gas blast bullshit that he has right now. Has been in the game in some form or another since it launched. I was there at the launch party for MK9 with NetherRealm reps at the Proud Bird for the first Wednesday night fights. I was there at the start of MK9. I got blown up by Online Tony doing run cancel infinites at the first MK9 tournament at the release of the game. That shit was there, and guess what? You don't think that everybody that watched that Wednesday night fights and saw Online Tony blowing everybody up, you didn't think they didn't want to learn that? And again, rule number 1 of fighting games, if it's possible, some basement virgin's going to do it. You don't think a whole bunch of basement virgins didn't roll up to that first fucking Evo with all the Cabal run cancel bullshit, expecting to become champion of the world, only to have to suck on the penis of a dead or alive player who really likes Kung Lao. Que sera, sera. Just gotta be good, man. Just gotta be good.
Hey, so, if you, follow YouTube enough, you know that they like to put weird stuff all over the screen for the last 30 seconds. So this is gonna fill that space. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably right there and there. All over the place right now. Yeah, go ahead and click that stuff if you want. And that's 30 seconds.